Yes, good evening, everyone. I hope you have revised what we covered in last class. Everyone, any doubts from last class? I hope you have revised what is dated security, state development loan, treasury bill, cash memo bill. Everything is revised. Good. And I did also ask you to start preparing for the test. NCRT book खोला है? Open the NCRT book, start reading the NCRT textbook. Uh, you'll get a number of questions from NCRT as well. Okay? Today's newspaper. Okay, I have already seen the today's newspaper. Just open the front page. On the front page, you'll find about the inflation in India. So there you can see as to what has happened to the inflation rate in India. You could see it has come down to 8-year low of around 1.5%. Apart from that, if you read that particular article, in that article they have also mentioned as to how much inflation is the RBI targeting at. What's the inflation rate which RBI is targeting? 2 to 6%. So remember, I must have told you in the first class that zero rate of inflation is actually very bad for the economy. If the rate of inflation is zero, it is as good as saying that the economy has become stagnant. It is not growing. So zero rate of inflation is actually very bad. So we are not even targeting inflation to come down to zero. We are targeting that inflation ideally it should be at 4%. Ideally 4%. But we are also giving certain level of flexibility, and that flexibility is plus or minus 2%. So 4 plus 2 means 6. 4 minus 2 is 2. So ideally the inflation should range between 2 to 6%. Okay. Why it should be only 4%? That will be discussing later in the chapter of inflation. Okay. As of now, just know that we are targeting an inflation of 2 to 6% and ideally at 4%. Then move to the business page. Business page. Okay. In India, we have what is called as cess. Okay. Now, what is this? It is, you can think of this as a form of tax. But there is a minute difference between tax and cess. Tax that we collect, right? Think income tax, corporate tax, GST, any tax that you think of, whatever tax the government collects, that tax, government can use it for any purpose. Like government can use it for education, government can use it for health, government can use it for construction of infrastructure projects. Government can do anything with the tax that it is collecting. But when the government imposes this thing, right? Government is imposing this for a specific cause, for a special reason. For example, in India, we have what is called as health and education cess. As the name suggests, for what purpose do you think this is imposed for? For the purpose of health as well as education. So, whenever in India you pay income tax, right? So, you pay income tax. Whenever you pay income tax in India, whatever tax that you pay, 4% of your income tax you will pay as health and education cess. Let me just give you an example. Let's say this is me. For example, if my annual income is, let's say, rupees 10 lakh, and let's say if I am paying income tax of, let's say, 1 lakh, I will have to pay health and education cess, which is 4% of not my taxable income. It is always 4% of income tax that I am paying. So I will pay 4% of 1 lakh. How much will that be? Rupees 4,000. Samaya? Similar to health and education cess, we have road and infrastructure cess. This is something that each one of us pay on purchase of petrol or diesel. So whenever you get petrol or diesel filled in your bike or your car, na, let's say you're paying 100 rupees per liter on petrol. Out of that 100 rupees, some money is also being paid as this road and infrastructure. As the name suggests, for what purpose it will be used for? For construction of road as well as other infrastructure like railways, ports, airports, and so on. Don't you think, in order to track or in order to know that the money collected under cess is utilized for a specific purpose, we need to have a separate fund or a separate dedicated fund. So all of this money, na, it goes into a separate fund. In your polity class, until what point did you reach? You're still in article only, article 3 only. Chalo, theek hai. You'll later study about consolidated fund of India, public account of India, and so on. Do not worry about it. As of now, just know that this money, na, health and education cess, health cess will go into a fund which is called as, okay, education cess will go into a fund called as, look at this, Prarambik Shiksha Kosh. As the name suggests, Prarambik means primary. Same, we have Madhyamik Shiksha Kosh, secondary education. Uchchatar Shiksha Kosh, higher education. So all of that education money will go into a separate fund. Health will go into a separate fund called as Swasthya Suraksha Nidhi. Swasthya means health. Suraksha means protection. So for purpose of health, the money will go into a separate fund. Samay aaya, everyone? So read today's newspaper on cess. What is CAG saying? Office of CAG. Government has failed to transfer the cess money to a dedicated fund. So compulsorily it is mentioned that whatever cess the government collects, compulsorily it has to go into a separate fund. But for some, the government has not transferred it. Is that clear to everyone? Okay. So this is a basic understanding that you need to know as far as today's class is concerned. The article. In the chapter of taxation, we will discuss in detail two concepts. One is the concept of surcharge and the other one is the concept of cess. Both these two we will discuss in detail. Okay, do not worry. As of now, just know that there is something called as cess that we covered in the one of the paper. In the list of topics that you have been writing at the back of your page notebook, just write two terms, surcharge and cess. ठीक है, everyone? Fine. So coming back to government borrowings from the Reserve Bank of India. I think we have covered the long-term borrowings. Now we'll be covering the short-term borrowings. So please write short-term borrowings. So here, with respect to government borrowings from RBI, we have covered about long-term borrowings in yesterday's class, right? And we covered that long-term borrowings, who is allowed? Only the central government is allowed. But when it comes to government borrowings from RBI for short term, it is allowed for both center as well as states. Do not write this. Do not write this. I'll just tell you later. Just compare and contrast government borrowings from market. Long-term borrowings from market, both center and state. Short-term borrowings, only center. But this part is completely different. Okay. So we are going to concentrate here. Short-term borrowings from RBI. So write both center and state. And under that, right, under FRBM Act, under FRBM Act 2003, under FRBM Act 2003, comma, both center and state can borrow short-term loans, can borrow short-term loans from RBI to address temporary mismatches in the cash balances. To address temporary mismatches in the cash balances. To address temporary mismatches in the form temporary mismatches in the cash balances. Okay. These loans are called as Aditya, what do you think they are called as? If government is borrowing loans from RBI, WMA, good. These loans are called as wage and means advances. These loans are called as wage and means advances. Okay. Right? Features of WMAs. Features of WMAs. Features of WMAs. Okay. Under that, first one, duration. So when the government is borrowing loans from RBI, for what duration the government borrows? Because you're talking about short term, na? It is always less than 1 year. But WMAs are obviously less than 1 year, but they are always for 90 days. So right, duration 90 days. Okay. If government is borrowing money from RBI, understand that government does not borrow money free of cost. Government has to pay some interest to the RBI. So government cannot say to RBI, look, I am the government, you have to give me loans at 0% rate of interest. That government cannot say. Government will pay some interest. What is that rate of interest? Okay. In the next chapter of monetary policy, we will be discussing that whenever banks borrow money from RBI, when the banks borrow money from RBI, banks are required to pay some interest to the RBI. And that interest, we call it as what? Repo rate. I must have briefly touched upon this in the current affairs class, right? So repo rate is simply the rate at which banks borrow loans from RBI. So under WMA also, if government is borrowing money from RBI, RBI will give loans to government at same repo rate. So RBI will not distinguish between the banks and the government. To both, it will give loans at repo rate. समझ आया? So right, rate of interest, repo rate. A rate of interest, put hyphen and write, a repo rate. In the bracket, write. Repo rate is a rate at which banks borrow loans from the RBI. Repo rate is the rate at which banks borrow loans from the RBI. ठीक है? Okay. And then write limit on WMA. Last part. Limit on WMA. So when I say limit means how much money can the government borrow from the RBI? Limit. Okay. Here what happens is, for the central government, that is how much money the central government can borrow, that limit is mutually decided between the center and the RBI. So what happens is, central government and RBI both will come together. They will decide mutually ki how much money the central government can borrow from the RBI. But when it comes to states, for the states, the limit is set by RBI based upon the recommendations of advisory committee. So what will happen is, RBI will appoint a committee. This committee will consult all the state governments. It will see how much money the state governments actually need to borrow. Based upon that, the advisory committee will give some recommendation to the RBI. So whatever recommendation the advisory committee gives, based upon that, RBI will set the limit. Different limit will be set for different states. Like for the state of Karnataka, the limit is in 1 year, Karnataka government, for example, may borrow 1000 crores. State of Maharashtra in 1 year may borrow 1200 crores. Different limits for different states. Sir, may I ask sabko? So please write on this thing, two things. Center, the limit is mutually decided between center and state. Huh. No, advisory committee set up by the RBI only. RBI will only set up the advisory committee. And did you get the yesterday's PPT? You got, no? You sent it to everyone? And I hope you have incorporated that table also. Yes or no? There's a table which I had asked you to incorporate. I am doing my hard work. आप भी अपना hard work करो. I told you very clearly. Incorporate the table. Remember I showed you that compare and contrast. Bank note, 1 rupee note and the coins. Ashu, did you incorporate? No? Table. Huh, good. So you should be proud that you have incorporated. Some people are blank. Okay, fine. Is that clear? So we are done with the role of RBI as a debt manager. Okay. Before that, after this, let me just take some practice questions. I think we have covered all of this questions. We have covered this, na? Okay, fine. So what we'll do is please write retail direct scheme. Next one, which is continuation of role of RBI as a debt manager only. Make a heading. We are done with the table now. Okay? Forget the table. We are done with the table. Move to the next page. Take up a fresh page. Right? Retail direct platform. Retail direct scheme. You can write retail direct scheme. Okay. So please understand that the table that you have prepared, na, it's a most important table from the chapter of RBI, because I must have shown you that repeatedly questions are asked with respect to different types of government securities. We'll take it forward, a continuation of that, which is retail direct scheme. Okay, just pay attention. What is this retail direct scheme? We'll discuss that. Before that, write basics to understand. Basics to understand. Basics to understand. Online students, some of you can message me. Okay, I'll send that PPT to you. Or you can just check the portal. It must be uploaded on the portal as well. Is it uploaded on the portal? Yesterday's PPT also? It's uploaded, no? Yes. Shilpa, can check, just check the portal. I think it must be uploaded. Okay. Basics to understand. First one, primary market and secondary market. primary market and secondary market. Second, demat account. First one is primary market and secondary market, and second one is demat account. I'm writing it demat. Okay. Let's understand what exactly is primary market and what is secondary market. Remember I discussed about bonds, right? So when a company issues bonds, bonds are purchased by some investors. So think of it. Let's say this is a particular company. This company issues bonds, and when this company issues bonds, bonds in this case are bought, let's say, by investor X directly from the company itself. So from where is the investor purchasing the bond? The investor is purchasing the bond directly from the company. This we call it as which market? We call this as primary market. Once the investor X purchases the bond, and let's say investor X is in need of money, what he can do? Investor X sells bond to, let's say, another investor Y. This market we call it as secondary market. So secondary market, you are purchasing bond not from the company, you are purchasing bond from some other investor. Have you heard of Bombay Stock Exchange, National Stock Exchange? Normally what happens is on BSE, NSE, you purchase the financial instrument from another investor. So which market that BSE and NSE is? Secondary market. It is not the primary market. I hope you understood this concept, right? If I'm talking about company, I can say the same thing about RBI. If RBI is issuing government securities, if I purchase government securities directly from RBI, which market will that be? Primary market. After I purchase a government security, let's say I sell the government security to Bharat. Here trading is taking place between two investors. So which market? Secondary market. That is what you should know, what is primary and secondary. Anytime if you are getting confused, just know one thing. In primary, you always purchase it from the issuer. If you are purchasing it from another investor, it is always a secondary market. That's it. Okay. So write down. Primary market. Primary market is a market. Primary market is a market where financial instruments. Primary market is a market where financial instruments are bought directly from the issuer. Are bought directly from the issuer. Full stop. On the other hand, comma, secondary market is a market where financial instruments are bought from other investors. investors. ठीक है. Next line. Demat account. Demat account. Vaishali, what is this? Demat account? But what is this account? Soumya, not heard of this? Sure? No. ओके, इतना पता है. चलो, इतना जरूरी भी है, इतना ही पता होने का, ज्यादा भी पता नहीं होना चाहिए. ओके. You have a bank account. In the bank account, you will deposit your money. This is a bank account where you keep your money. Similar to that, in the Demat account, you will hold your financial instruments. Like if you purchase financial instruments like shares, bonds, government securities, you need to keep somewhere. Where do you keep this financial instruments? You'll keep them in your Demat account. Is that part clear? So bank account is for your deposits. Demat account is for keeping your financial instruments like shares, bonds, and so on. And how do you open your Demat account? Number one, you can open your Demat account through the bank in which you have a bank account. Like if you are having your bank account in ICICI or HDFC, and let's say if you are using this iMobile app of ICICI Bank, through that iMobile app, you can apply for a Demat account. So what will ICICI Bank do on your behalf? Because it has already fulfilled your KYC norms, know your customer norms, like it knows your PAN card details, it knows your Aadhaar card, it has your address, it has your KYC norms. So taking that KYC norms, it will open a Demat account in your name. That is one thing. Or these days you are having multiple mobile apps like Grow app or Angel One, right? You must have heard of this Zerodha. So at a click of a button, you can download these apps through the App Store. Once you download this Grow app, Zerodha or Angel One, you can then apply for Demat account through these apps. These apps will ask for your details like PAN card, Aadhaar card, bank account details, and within 2 to 3 days you will be ready with a Demat account. And once you get a Demat account, you can easily do a trading in the shares, bonds and government securities. Is that part clear? But मत करना ये चीज, ठीक है? Unless you have a knowledge of stock market, you should not invest in stock market, because these days people are investing in stock market like the way they do gambling. You know gambling, right? जैसे gambling करते हैं ऐसे लोग stock market में invest कर रहे हैं with people who do not have any idea. Like there is a very complicated instrument called as futures and options. People don't even know what is future and option, yet number of Indians are investing in future and option. ये बहुत सारे लोगों के लिए ड्रीम 11 के ऐसे गेम बन गया है ये. You know ड्रीम 11 ना? For these people it has become like a dream 11. Only fact is this, that they are investing a lot of money and they're losing out their money as well. So never invest your money in the capital market unless you have a sound knowledge in that. Okay? So Demat account is basically an account through which you can do a trading, investing in shares, bonds and government securities. You can do that. If you want to really purchase something, if you have money, you can invest in government securities. You can invest in government securities, but never in shares. Okay, please write. Demat account is an account. Demat account is an account demat account is an account which is needed to do trading, in financial instruments, such as shares, bonds, government securities, etc. Okay. So these are the two basic things that you need to understand. Based upon the basic things, now we are going to discuss what exactly is retail direct scheme. Already a question has been asked in the previous year prelims, so please pay attention. Okay. Let's first understand what was the mechanism of investing in government securities before 2021, that is before the retail direct scheme. So this is like a background. So before 2021, before the introduction of retail direct scheme, RBI used to sell the government securities. Which platform is that? eKuber platform. And when RBI is selling government securities, you are purchasing government securities directly from whom? RBI. Which market is that? Primary market. So RBI is selling government securities in the primary market. It is sold on the eKuber platform. Whoever is purchasing government securities in India, all these people have an account with the RBI on the eKuber platform. In yesterday's class, we covered who can purchase the government securities. Like I gave an example of financial institutions like banks, insurance companies, pension fund companies, mutual fund companies, as well as primary dealers. All these entities, they open an account with the RBI on the eKuber platform. And because they have an account with the RBI, they can directly purchase government securities from the RBI. So let's say all of you except Anil, just as an example, except Anil, all of you are the eKuber participants. eKuber participants means some of you may be banks, some of you may be insurance companies, some of you may be mutual fund companies, or some of you might be primary dealers. All of you have an account with me on the eKuber platform. So you could purchase the government securities directly from me. Let's say Anil in the class, he is a retail investor. I told you retail investor means individual. Anil does not has an account with me directly. Each one of you have an account with me, but he does not has an account with me. Can he purchase the government securities in the primary market? What is primary market? Socho. Primary market is a market where you purchase government securities directly. है ना? So can he purchase in the primary market? Please see here. Retail investors can purchase government securities in the primary market. ये क्या लिखा है? Directly they cannot purchase, but indirectly they can purchase. How? For indirectly purchasing, Anil must fulfill two things. Number one, compulsorily what he should have? Demat account. Compulsorily he must have a demat account. Second, he can purchase indirectly through the eKuber participants by paying commission. Now what can happen here is you have Anil here. Anil probably may give money to Varun. Who is Anil, by the way? A retail investor. Who is Varun, by the way? He is a eCuber participant. Anil is giving money to Varun. And what Varun is doing, Varun purchases government securities on whose behalf now? On Anil's behalf. From RBI. समझ में आया? Now some of you might think कि this is nothing but secondary market. It is not secondary market. I'll tell you why. If Varun purchases the government security on his behalf and then he sells it to Anil, then it becomes secondary market. It's like saying Varun purchases this from RBI. सबसे पहले he purchases from the RBI, and after purchasing this he gives it to Anil. This will become what market? Secondary market. But what is happening here? Anil is giving money to Varun. Using that money, Varun is purchasing from RBI. So what market it is still? Primary market only. Did you all get the point? If you're still getting confused, it's like saying you are giving your money to someone and you are asking that someone, please purchase government security on my behalf. So it is still primary market. But if that person purchases the government security for himself or herself and then sells it to you, then it becomes which market? Secondary market. So retail investors can purchase government securities in the primary market, but they cannot purchase it directly, they can purchase it indirectly. Once they purchase the government securities, they can do a trading. Where do you think the trading will take place? One is obviously stock exchange, like Bombay Stock Exchange and National Stock Exchange. Trading can take place there. Apart from stock exchanges, there is a separate platform about which we will be covering later. That platform, I'll dictate that part later, do not worry. It is called as NDSOM, Negotiated Dealing System Order Matching. This is a platform of the RBI. How many platforms of RBI did it cover so far? One is eCuber platform. eCuber platform is primary market or secondary market? Primary market. eCuber platform is a platform through which RBI sells new government securities. Negotiated Dealing System Order Matching is which platform? Primary market or secondary market? Secondary market, where you can do a trading. यहाँ तक clear है? Is everyone clear? कोई doubt नहीं है? This was a situation before what date? 2021. Before the introduction of retail direct scheme. Now let's see what has happened. Concentrate that side. Mechanism after the introduction of retail direct scheme. What has happened after the retail direct scheme? Compare this and this. Do you find any difference? Everything is same? सब कुछ same है? Okay. Now, why I have incorporated this just to tell you that whatever mechanism used to exist before, that same mechanism even now exists. What was available to you before, now also it is available. But in addition to this mechanism, you are getting a new option. Naya option क्या है? Like I was saying about Anil, right? Anil is a retail investor. He does not maintain an account with the RBI earlier. Now, under the retail direct scheme, I as an RBI I'm saying to Anil, you come and open an account with me directly. Like you go to SBI, with SBI you open a bank account. Now you can go to RBI, with the RBI you can open an account. Except the fact that with SBI, what account do you open? Bank account. यहाँ पे with the RBI you open an account which is called as retail direct jilt account. Retail direct jilt. When I say jilt, G-I-L-T, jilt is the short form for government securities. So when you open an account with the RBI, what you can do now? You can now directly purchase the government securities from primary market to place it. Now you can directly purchase it from RBI. So just see this. I told you how many platforms now. First platform, eCubear platform. eCubear platform is the platform for primary market. Then NDSOM. It's a platform for secondary market. Next we have retail direct platform. So RBI, when it sells government securities, some government securities it will sell it on eCubear platform. Some government securities it will sell it on retail direct platform. So where will retail investors purchase the government securities now? Retail direct platform. So bought by retail investors directly from the RBI in the primary market. So retail investors can purchase government securities in the primary market directly from the RBI without having to pay commission to the eCubear participants. So tell me, Anil has now two options. One, he can give money to Varun and purchase the government security. But for that, he has to pay some commission to Varun. Or he can come and purchase government securities directly from me. Which one is better for him? Directly from me, because there is no commission which he has to pay. Right? So once you purchase the government securities on the retail direct platform, where can you do a trading now? Stock exchange, NDSOM, and look at this, retail direct platform, which means retail direct platform is part of which market? Yes, both primary and secondary. eCubear, primary. NDSOM, secondary. Retail direct, both primary and secondary. सब में आया सबको? Okay. So now, if any one of us wants to purchase government security, you simply have to go to RBI's website. On RBI website, there is a separate link called as Retail Direct Platform. On that platform, if you click, you can open an Retail Direct Jilt account. You'll have to provide some basic details like your bank account, Aadhaar card, and so on. Once you get your account, you can directly start investing in the government securities now. So when I said in yesterday's class that government borrows money from us also, so that time you must be thinking, हमारे से कैसे borrow करेगा government? Now you understood how can the government borrow money from us? This is how it borrows money. Let me just show you if the retail direct account, how does it look like? Okay. So if you see, you have a separate website created by RBI, RBI Retail Direct. In fact, RBI has launched its app also. You have a separate app called as Retail Direct app, mobile app, through which you can start investing. And please don't consider this as an investment advice. I'm not an investment advisor, बस ये आपके लिए एकेडमिक ही रखना है इस चीजों को, ठीक है. सो कैन यू सी हियर, here there's a link. If you click on this, you can open a retail direct account, and then it also has access to NDS OM secondary market, and you can see what all things you can purchase here. State government securities. Varun, what is that name? State government securities, state development loans. Okay, then you also have what is called as sovereign gold bonds. We'll discuss that in the capital market, don't worry. Then we also have something called as floating rate savings bond. That also we'll discuss that later. Okay? Samay aaya sabko? Everyone has understood? So keeping this in mind, let me just show you a previous year question. But before I show you previous year question, just take your time, have a look at this quickly once again. समय आया? Okay, let me just show you the previous year question. Okay, please answer this question. Online students, please answer this question. Prelims 2021. Samay? First is correct or wrong? Hemant? Correct है? Ashu? One only है? Anil? Huh? I don't know. You can't ask UPSC ना. मुझे पता नहीं है. And you don't even have to know that to answer it. You don't even have to know the statement 3 to answer it. Yes, Samya? Retail investors through demat account can invest in T-bills and Government of India dated bonds in the primary market. It is right. Agar it is not using the word directly or indirectly. Understand that. Can they invest? Yes, they can invest. NDS OM is a government securities trading platform of RBI. It is 1 and 2. So you know that 1 and 2 are perfectly right. Go by the option. You get the answer B, 1 and 2. Alright, Anil? So you don't even have to worry about the third. But anyway, we'll cover that third in the capital market. Can you quickly take this down? So that's why I keep saying na, ki in economy, if you have flow charts, it will make your life easy. Vaishali, anything here? Are you able to see all the things? Last one is stock exchanges and one is NDS OM. Please make it fast, 1 minute. Mains, you have to be writing very fast, na? So I'm forcing you to start practicing now only. Who? Stock exchanges is not owned by one single entity. So stock exchange is owned by multiple institutions coming together. Uh, Now, for example, if you see BSC, in BSC, the largest shareholder owner is LIC, but LIC has ownership of below 10%. So LIC is the largest shareholder, but yet its ownership is less than 10. Huh. RBI does not own the stock exchange. Huh, government indirectly will own that. Like LIC is owned by the government, na? So indirectly government has ownership in stock exchange. Yes, done, everyone? Ashu? Huh? Huh, huh. Virtually done? Samya? Bharat? Almost. Huh. Fine. So what we'll do is now we'll get into some prelims pointers on the retail direct scheme. So right, prelims pointers on a retail direct scheme. Prelims pointers on a retail direct scheme. Okay. First one, eligible investors. First one, eligible investors. Right, put a hyphen and write all the retail investors. Eligible investors, all the retail investors. In the bracket, both residents and non-residents. Both residents and non-residents. So what I'm trying to say is people who are in India as well as people outside India, both can purchase the government securities through the retail direct platform. Next, requirement. Next part, requirement. Put hyphen and write. Retail investors need to open. Retail investors need to open a retail direct gilt account. Retail investors need to open retail direct gilt account with the RBI. Right? Next one, maintenance fee. Maintenance fee 0. You're not required to pay any money to RBI for opening and maintaining this particular account. Next one, government securities which can be bought. Government securities which can be bought. Government securities which can be bought. Put hyphen in, right? Number 1, dated bonds. Dated bonds. Second, SDL. Third, treasury bills. Fourth, sovereign gold bond. Sovereign gold bond. Next, sovereign green bond. Do not worry, we'll be covering all of this: green bond, gold bond, and so on. Sovereign gold bond, sovereign green bond. And last one, floating rate savings bonds. Floating rate savings bond. Okay. Last one, minimum and maximum investment. Floating rate savings bonds. Floating rate savings bonds. Last one, minimum and maximum investment. Minimum and maximum investment. Number 1, minimum investment, right? Minimum investment, rupees 10,000. Minimum investment is rupees 10,000. Next, maximum investment, put hyphen and write, differs from instrument to instrument. Differs from instrument to instrument. So basically on dated bonds, there is one maximum limit. On treasury bills, there is another maximum limit. That is not really important ki kitna maximum limit hai. But understand that there is both minimum investment limit as well as maximum investment limit. Okay, last one, facilities available. Last one, facilities available. Facilities available. Number 1, purchase government securities. Purchase government securities in the primary market. Second, purchase government securities in the primary market. Second, trading of government securities in the secondary market. Trading of government securities in the secondary market. Okay? So it is for both the primary market and the secondary market. So we are done with one thing, which is the retail direct scheme. So because it's the latest development now, which was introduced in 2021, it becomes important. Next, we'll get into the next platform, that is eKuber platform. Next, right? eKuber platform. eKuber platform. I have already covered about eKuber platform, hai na? So I'll just dictate this eKuber platform, right? Meaning core banking solution platform. Meaning core banking solution platform of the RBI. Core banking solution platform of the RBI. So when I say core banking solution, means RBI is acting like a banker to the banks, and it is acting like a banker to the government. All that functions which the RBI performs as a banker to banks, as a banker to government, all of that functions it is performing through this particular platform, that is eKuber platform. Next slide, facilities provided. Facilities provided. Number one, accept deposits from government and the banks. Accept deposits from the government and banks. Second, provide loans to the government and banks. Provide loans to the government and banks. Third, sell government securities in the primary market. Sell government securities in the primary market. Next one, under this eCuber only, eCuber participants. eCuber participants, याद है कौन कौन है participants? Right, banks, insurance companies, mutual fund companies, banks, insurance companies, mutual fund companies, pension fund companies, and primary dealers. Retail investors are not part of eCuber platform, no? Retail investors are part of Retail Direct platform. Last one, last platform, negotiated dealing system order matching, last platform. So we are done with Retail Direct platform. We are done with eCuber platform. Last one is negotiated dealing system order matching. Negotiated dealing system order matching. In the bracket, write NDSOM. NDSOM. Under this, write down the first one. Platform for trading of government securities. Platform for trading of government securities, right? Owned by RBI, but operated by, owned by RBI, but operated by clearing corporation, clearing corporation of India Limited. Operated by Clearing Corporation of India Limited, that is CCIL. Okay, just read all the platforms quickly. So we have covered Retail Direct platform, eCuber platform, and NDSOM. Okay, have a look at this question. Practice MCQ number 20. Shiva. eCuber is a core banking solution of the RBI. It is right. Only scheduled banks can become members of eCuber. Who can else become members? Insurance companies, pension fund companies, mutual fund companies, primary dealers. Third, it is used by the RBI to carry out various transactions such as auctioning or selling of government securities. Right. So this is right and this is right. This is wrong. Answer is 1 and 3. Okay. I think we have. Did we cover this? No. Varun? The RBI has an obligation and right to act as banker to both center and state government. False. It is for only for center. It is only for center. Good. Presently, RBI directly carries out the banking related functions of both center and state. Directly does it carry out? Directly नहीं, it has outsourced this. किसको outsource किया है? Agency banks को. So because it says directly, na, that's why the statement is incorrect. Okay. Lastly, before we end, right, the next one. Okay, just see here. We have covered the role of RBI as a debt manager. And we have also covered role of RBI as a banker to the government. I am bringing both the two things in one place. Please see the Venn diagram. In your CSAT, no, you'll get these statements. All cats are dogs. All dogs are donkeys. So this is the kind of statements that you get. And how do you get the right answer to that question? By having this kind of Venn diagram. So same kind of Venn diagrams I have made here. The smaller circle of role of RBI as a debt manager encompasses, it's part of role of RBI as a banker. So if you get a question something like this, which among the following roles does the RBI perform as a banker? उसमें से, let's say there's a role कि it provides ways and means advances to the government. It is right. I hope you understood. So when we say role of RBI as a banker, already we have covered all of these things. I hope you are able to remember. All of this we have already covered. When I say role of RBI as a debt manager, what it is doing as a debt manager? It is managing the market borrowings of the government. It will give loans to the government. Look at this. It is fixing limit on ways and means advances. I told you now, for the center, the limit is set mutually between the RBI and the center. For the states, RBI will set up a advisory committee, and when the advisory committee gives a recommendation, RBI will set a limit on ways and means advances. So RBI will set the limit. And look at the last one. Even RBI giving license to primary dealer, it is its role as a debt manager. समझ में आया सबको? So please take this down quickly, and then we'll go to the next part. Yes, good Shilpa, you're right. No need to write all of that. वो तो आपको पता है ना? Role of RBI as a banker. No need to write all of those things. But these four things are important. Manage the market borrowings, provide ways and means advances, fix limit on WMAs, and issue licenses to primary dealers. Sikkim will not borrow only from the RBI. It cannot, because RBI is not acting like a banker to Sikkim. Sikkim will manage its own money that way. Okay, now we'll move to the next part. Role of RBI as a banker to banks. Abhi tak we have covered role of RBI as a banker to government. Role of RBI as a debt manager. Now role of RBI as a banker to banks. Right. Role of RBI as a banker to banks. I think it's very easy. Role of RBI as a banker to banks. What all things do you think RBI will do as a banker to banks? हाँ, वन तो सबसे पहले तो बैंक को ओपन करना पड़ेगा अकाउंट आरबीआई के पास. Banks must open an account with the RBI. Second, banks must maintain certain minimum balances. What is that called as? Cash reserve ratio. Good. Then give advice. Then give loans to the banks. At what rate does the RBI give loans to the banks? Repo rate. Then there's something else which I'm missing. Just check on the role of RBI as a banker to government. Just check. Make payment and accept payment. Like if a bank is making payment to another bank, if a bank is accepting payment from another bank, who will help the banks to accept or make payment? It is the RBI. And how do you think RBI is helping the banks? How does RBI help the banks to accept payment or make payment? Like ICICI Bank is transferring money to HDFC Bank. How is RBI helping this bank to transfer money? Okay, how is the money transferred from one bank to another? Is there any system through which the money gets transferred from one bank to another? In the earlier class, remember I told you there are two ways by which you can transfer the money. One is RTGS and another one is NEFT. Have you ever wondered who has set up NEFT and RTGS? Who is the owner of NEFT and RTGS? Who do you think is the owner? It is actually RBI. RBI has established RTGS as well as NEFT. I hope it is clear. By establishing RTGS and NEFT, RBI is enabling the banks to accept and make payment. In prelims 2025, there was a question on RTGS as well as NEFT, but we'll discuss that in the chapter of payment and settlement system. Clear? So, right, as a banker to banks, as a banker to the banks, RBI performs the following functions. RBI performs the following functions. Number one, require the bank to open an account. Require bank to open an account with the RBI. Second, banks maintain minimum balances with the RBI. Banks maintain minimum balances with the RBI in the form of CRR. Third, give loans to the banks. Give loans to the banks. Fourth, give loans to the banks. Fourth, accept slash make payments. Accept slash make payments. Through RTGS, through RTGS and NEFT, through RTGS and NEFT set up by RBI. through RTGS and NEFT set up by RBI. Next. Provide advice. Provide advice on monetary matters. Last one. Under this, act as lender of last resort. Act as lender of last resort. See this question asked in the prelims 2012. The RBI acts as bankers' bank. This would imply which of the following? Answer is all the three options, right? Apart from that, okay, let me show you one question, previous year question. Okay, prelims 2021. What do you think is the answer? We'll be covering that in detail. In India, the central bank's function as the lender of last resort usually refers to which of the following? Providing liquidity to the banks having a temporary crisis. That is what is lender of last resort. But you know what happened in the prelims of that year? Mostly student marked the answer as 2 and 3, which is actually wrong. RBI lending money to government is not its role as lender of last resort. RBI lending money to whom? Banks is considered as lender of last resort. ठीक है everyone? Okay. Swarnim, absorb sucking out excess money from the banks. It is not the role of RBI as a banker. It is part of the monetary policy. We'll cover that part later. Okay. What happened? Alt? Alternate day. Acha. Next slide, lender of last resort. Make the heading lender of last resort. Okay. Just pay attention. Let's say this is a particular bank. Let's say this bank is accepting a deposit from multiple people. For sake of simplicity, let's say each of these persons, they are depositing 20 rupees each with the bank. So when you see these deposit which the bank has accepted, can I say that this is actually what? It is a liability for the bank. है ना? Once it accepts the deposit, the same deposit the bank will give out in the form of loans. Just think of it. There are 5 depositors, each of whom has deposited 20. 20 into 5, that makes it as 100. Do you think the bank will give entire 100 rupees in the form of loans? Never. Why? Someone would obviously come one or the other day to ask their money back. है ना? Because bank has been running its business since a long time, every bank knows for sure that on any given day, how much maximum money will be withdrawn by the people. Bank knows this for sure. So this bank, for example, has estimated that on any given day, people will not withdraw more than rupees 20, for example. Okay? So this 20 rupees, it will keep with itself. 100 minus 20, कितना बचा अभी? 80. 80 rupees is what it will give out in the form of loans. So let's say it has given a home loan to X, and let's say this home loan is given for 10 years. The value of the loan, for example, is equal to 30. Second, it has given another 30 rupees car loan to person Y for 5 years. And let's say another 20 rupees it has given in the form of a personal loan to Z for 1 year. ठीक है? So all of that loan which the bank has given, all of that loan will be called as an asset. ठीक है? If you look at the deposits which the people maintain with the bank, people can maintain short-term deposits or long-term deposits. When I say short-term, means people may deposit for less than 1 year. If they are depositing for more than 1 year, it is long-term. In India, what do you think is the general tenure of the deposits? क्या हो सकता है general tenure? Short term है, long term है? Why do you think long term? Majority people? Huh? Somebody was saying something? Usually people keep money in the form of savings account. Okay. People generally keep the money in the form of savings account. That's the first thing. Think of like this. Like most people are earning salary. ठीक है? They get salary on the first of every month. That salary they will use it for the rest of the month. Month end तक salary account तो zero हो जाता है normally, and then first of the next month money once again comes into that particular account. So when the money is coming into the account, can I say the money actually stays mostly for short term? Money does not stay for long term. People will always have money in their bank account. I understand that. लोगों के पास हमेशा बैंक अकाउंट में पैसा रहेगा. But once the money comes into the bank account, the duration for which it stays is actually less. I hope you understood. Apart from that, if you look at RBI's report, according to RBI, the average tenure of deposits in India ranges from 3 to 5 years. Average tenure. यानी लोग अगर deposit करते हैं, people may deposit money for different duration, but on an average it is 3 to 5 years. Is that part clear? So when you see liabilities of the bank, Generally, I would say average tenure of deposits is short term, and hence liabilities of the banks are what kind of nature? They are short term. Somewhere, let's say this side. Banks give loans for different purposes. Like bank may give you loans to purchase a mobile phone. Bank may give you loans to purchase a TV, refrigerator. Bank may give you loans to purchase a car, a house, or bank may give loans to a company to build a road project, a railway project, or a airport. So bank will give loans for different purposes. What do you think the assets of bank generally are? Short term होते हैं या long term होते हैं? Generally, if you see, long term loans share is higher as compared to short term loans. You might be thinking, सर मैं तो शॉर्ट टर्म के लिए लेता हूं लोन. ये बस आप सोच रहे हो ना, बाहर भी तो देखना है. मेजॉरिटी कंपनीज दे टेक लोन्स फॉर बिल्डिंग रोड बनाने के लिए इंडिया में कम से कम यू नीड 10 to 15 years. Getting that point? So if you see the loans are generally long term in nature. According to RBI, if you see the average tenure of loans, it is 7 to 10 years. Deposits का average tenure क्या है? 3 to 5 years. Loans का average tenure 7 to 10 years. So here, if you see, average tenure of loans is long term, and hence the assets are long term in nature. समझ में आया सबको? Now because of this there is a classical problem which the banks generally face, a classical problem, and that classical problem we call it as asset liability mismatch. Look at the word asset liability mismatch. Let me just tell you what it is. Let's say I am this bank, and let's say person A, one fine day he comes to me, he says, I want my money back. How much money he has deposited with me? 20, है ना? So what is my liability now? How much is my liability? 20 rupees. My liability is 20. How much money I have right now with me? My asset कितना है अभी फिलहाल? 20. My asset is 20, liability is 20. Will I be able to pay him back his deposit? Yes. There's no problem यहाँ पे. But assuming कि A and B दोनों को एक साथ सपना आ गया कि पैसा निकालना है. Both of them come to me and ask for their money. So think of it in this case, if A and B demand their deposits back, both are demanding for their deposits back. For me, my liability is right now what? Short term. Why I'm saying short term? Because they're standing in front of me and they are saying मुझे अपना पैसा चाहिए. My liability is short term, and how much is my liability? My liability in this case is 40. But bank has only rupees 20 to give. बैंक के पास तो सिर्फ 20 रुपीज है. रिमेनिंग मनी is in the form of, yes, what it is, long liability नहीं है. Remaining money is in the form of long term assets. So let's say I have given this money 30 rupees to a person who has bought a car. Imagine something like this. ये कभी होगा नहीं. Imagine something like this, like I go to this person to whom I have given the car loan. ऐसे मुझे अभी के अभी 20 रुपए चाहिए. He says क्यों? He says क्योंकि मुझे अपने डिपॉजिटर को पैसे देना है. But he will tell me, आपने तो लोन दिया है, कितने साल का लिया है? 5 साल का. You cannot ask me money before, ना? Do I have assets to pay them back? I have assets to pay them back. But do I have the money now? I don't have money now. I have to wait for 5 years. This problem को क्या बोलते हैं? Asset liability mismatch. It's not that bank does not has money. Bank has money, but bank will get that money only after 5 years. Asset liability mismatch. What do you think will happen in this case if there's asset liability mismatch? Loan लेगा, कहाँ से लेगा? That's what I want to tell you. It's not RBI. Yes. If the bank faces asset liability mismatch, the bank will borrow money from another bank. Generally, this is a normal thing which happens in India. Like one bank wants to fulfill its obligation towards the depositors, bank does not has money, the bank will immediately call up another bank and ask for the money. That is the general thing. So the bank in this case will borrow 20 rupees. So I can say here, borrow rupees 20 from another bank and fulfill its obligation. यहाँ तक clear है? Now let's say A, B, C तीनों को एक साथ सपना आ गया पैसा निकालने का. All of them three together come and ask me for the money. How much is my liability now? 60. My liability is 60. How much money I have now? 20. So what will I do now? How will I fulfill my obligation? Here I borrowed money from one bank. I will borrow money from multiple banks. I can borrow money from multiple banks, right? Okay. Now let's understand a very dangerous situation which might arise. The dangerous situation here is, let's say all of you are these people, A, B, C, D, E. All of you are these depositors. Morning you got up, you're sitting and sipping your coffee. You open the Hindu newspaper. Front page of the Hindu newspaper, you will get a headline saying that my bank has given this loan to Malia and he has run away from India. All of you are drinking coffee. You come across this article in the newspaper. What will you do? You'll think, coffee छोड़ो पहले अपना पैसा निकालते हैं, है ना? Coffee छोड़ो अपना पैसा निकालते हैं. So what will each of you do? Each one of you will take out your wallet and you'll probably run to the nearest ATM to withdraw your money. What is that situation called as? It is literally called a bank run actually. इसको bank run ही बोलते हैं. Can you see? People running to bank to withdraw their deposits. Bank run. So bank run is a situation where depositors try to simultaneously withdraw all their deposits. Now tell me, if I am this bank and if I approach another bank कि मुझे लोन दे दो, do you think other bank will give me loan? कोई नहीं help करेगा. Why will they not help me? Because they know for sure, because I have given money to someone and that someone has run away from India and I'm not going to get my money back. They know this. So if I go and ask other bank for help, they'll not help me. तब बताओ कौन help करेगा? Yes, RBI. That is why RBI को क्या बोलते हैं? Lender of last resort. Last resort means when no one is helping a bank, who will help the bank? RBI. That is why we call it as RBI as lender of last resort. नहीं तो RBI को so there's no other reason to call RBI as a lender of last resort. Getting it? But why? Why will RBI rescue a bank? Deposit. तो वो तो डिपॉजिटर से गलती है ना कि उन्होंने ऐसे बैंक में पैसा रखा जो डूबने वाला है. डिपॉजिटर से गलती है. No. Think. Did you get my question? My question is very simple. Why is RBI helping such a bank? It is obviously depositor's mistake ना कि आपने अपना पैसा मेरे पास रखा जो डूबने वाला है. ये आपका मिस्टेक है. तो आरबीआई क्यों हेल्प करना चाहिए मुझे? सोचो. I think that is very important. Good. Because if RBI does not help this bank, na, if RBI does not help this bank, people's trust, confidence in the banking system will be shaken to the core. Each one of you will think, if my money in this bank is not safe, you will think your money in some other bank is not safe. What each one of you will probably try to do is, each one of you will try to run to SBI and try to withdraw money from SBI. And तब SBI सोचेगा मैंने क्या किया है, गलती तो इस बैंक की है. SBI will face what situation? Bank run. So how should RBI ensure that people don't withdraw their deposit from other banks? By ensuring that this bank does not fail. So you must have seen that pack of cards, na? In a pack of cards, the first card falls, all other cards will fall. So how do you ensure that the other cards don't fall? By ensuring the first card itself does not fall. That is why the RBI will rescue this bank. समझ में आया सबको? RBI does not like this bank. It's not that RBI इसको like करता है. RBI wants to ensure the safety of the financial system. Clear? Please write down. RBI will lend loans to such banks. That is a last resort. Generally what happens is CRR is just 4%. So the money lent by RBI will be much more than that. It's not that entire money will be used. Okay, clear? So please take this down. Lender of last resort, this diagram. This is quite important, this word asset liability mismatch, as well as this word bank run. Tomorrow you guys have a class? Evening class hai? Huh? Not polity class. Sahil sir? हाँ. हाँ? Call money, notice money, term money. We'll cover that later. Monetary policy. Okay. Huh. Bankrupt is different. Bankrupt, we don't use the word with respect to bank. Bankrupt is with respect to the borrower. The borrower who take loans fails to repay the loans. That person we call it as a bankrupt. We don't use the word bankrupt for a bank. Okay. Next, you can write down. Okay. Next, right? Role of RBI as a regulator. Role of RBI as a regulator. Role of RBI as a regulator. Now, this is how a bank run looks like. This is a cartoon. You can see that people are running to bank. They are withdrawing deposits, and when they withdraw their deposits, what happens? Ultimately, the bank collapses. Right. So, coming to the next part, role of RBI as a regulator. So, with respect to a regulator, first thing that we are going to cover is role of RBI as a regulator of banks. Right? First one, a regulator of banks. A regulator of banks. Okay, just pay attention. When we say banks in India, we have a separate chapter called as structure of banking in India. There we'll discuss different categories of banks. As of now, just know that broadly there are two categories of banks in India. One, we call it as public sector banks, and the second one is private sector banks. The difference being it is owned by government and that is owned by private sector. Let's discuss about the public sector bank. How did public sector banks originate in the first place? Let's understand that. If you go back to 1947, when India gained independence, that time all the banks in India were actually private banks. They were actually private banks. Like whatever banks that you see today, like Punjab National Bank, Bank of Baroda, all these were set up as private banks. Have you heard of Swadeshi movement, right? In your history, you must have studied about Swadeshi movement 1905. So during Swadeshi movement, banks like Punjab National Bank were set up. It was a private bank. So it so happened that in 1947, when India gained independence, our banking sector was dominated by private sector banks. 1955. What happened in 1955? Imperial Bank of India was nationalized to become the State Bank of India. So the first thing what happened was in 1955, Imperial Bank of India was nationalized. Nationalized, I told you the meaning. Government took over the ownership. And this was nationalized to form SBI, State Bank of India, through a separate act called as SBI Act of 1955. After that, in 1969, what happened was the government decided to nationalize 14 banks. 14 banks got nationalized through a separate act called as Bank Nationalization Act of 1970. The decision was taken in 1969, but the act was passed 1 year later, that is in 1970. After that, in 1980, 6 banks got nationalized. So can you see how many banks got nationalized after 1947? 14 plus 6, 20 plus 1, 21 banks. Why they got nationalized? Private banks, ना? Private banks का main motive होता क्या है? To earn profit. So what the private banks were generally doing, these private banks, they predominantly had branches in urban areas. Predominantly, they gave loans only to the richer class. So the kind of banking which these banks were doing, it was referred to as, look at the word, class banking. We wanted mass banking, not class banking. Mass banking means catering to the masses. So to transition from class banking to mass banking, we decided to nationalize totally 21 banks. Right now, how many public sector banks do you think we have in India now? Abhi? Mishali, how many banks we have? Can you name some public sector banks owned by the government except SBI? I know we'll start with SBI, except SBI. Shiva? Punjab National Bank, that is my example only, na? Samya? Have you heard of Indian Overseas Bank? Not heard of? चलो ठीक है. Do not worry. भूल जाओ जो कुछ भी मैंने बोला है. We'll cover that part later in a separate chapter of banking. Okay. As of now, today there are 12 public sector banks, including SBI. But how many got nationalized? बाकी कहाँ गायब हो गए? They got merged. We have merged some of the banks. Like we used to earlier have one bank called as Vijaya Bank, Dina Bank. Vijaya Bank and Dina Bank have got merged into Bank of Baroda. So we'll be covering that merger later. So as of now, how many we have? 12. But totally how many banks got nationalized? 21. Okay? So these are the banks which have got nationalized, and these 6 banks got nationalized through a separate act called as Bank Nationalization Act of 1980. You understood the brief history of it? Next we'll come to the regulation part, but the history is clear. Okay, so please write down. So I think you mentioned this role of RBI as a regulator of banks, na? Under that, right? The public sector banks were initially set up. The public sector banks were initially set up as private banks. Were initially set up as private banks prior to India's independence. Prior to India's independence. These banks predominantly operated in urban areas. These banks predominantly operated in urban areas and catered to the richer class. And catered to the richer class, leading to in the bracket, sorry, in the inverted commas, class banking. Leading to class banking. Full stop. Hence, in order to move towards class mass banking, comma, the government undertook a wave of nationalization. The government undertook a wave of nationalization. So please write this: 1955, 1969 and 1980. Okay. So this is a brief things about publicity bank. Now we'll get into the regulation part about how they are regulated. It's 7. We'll take a break, 5 minutes. Once we come back, we'll start with the regulation. यहाँ पे लगा दो साइड। Someone is there to come? अच्छा, भरत. Okay, so what we'll do now, we have covered about the brief history of public sector banks. Now we'll be discussing the regulation of public sector banks as well as the private banks. Okay, just pay attention. I'll dictate these things. थोड़ा सा confusing है. When you see public sector banks, like I have already told you, that public sector banks, they are set up under an act of the parliament. Like SBI has been set up through a separate act called as SBI Act 1955. All other banks, they are either set up under the Bank Nationalization Act of 1970 or they are set up under the Bank Nationalization Act of 1980, right? So, because the public sector banks are set up under a separate act of the parliament, these public sector banks, they are under dual regulation. When I say dual regulation, means there's no single regulator for them. There are two regulators for public sector banks. Like one is obviously RBI. RBI will regulate the banks. Remember when I was discussing the various statutes, law governing the functioning of RBI, I told you there's an act which gives power to the RBI to regulate the banks. Banking Regulation Act 1949. So under this act, RBI can regulate the public sector banks. Apart from that, even the government can also regulate the public sector banks under the separate acts under which they have been established. Like SBI will be regulated by RBI under BR Act 1949 and under SBI Act 1955. But under SBI Act 1955, who will regulate? Government. Same goes with other public sector banks. Getting it? Apart from that, what is also equally interesting is, don't you think if there is dual regulation, there might arise a situation where certain things may be duplicated. Like some things which are looked after by RBI may also be looked after by the government. So to avoid duplication, so that government and RBI are not doing the same function, to avoid duplication, it is mentioned that certain provisions of BR Act 1949 are not applicable to public sector banks. So there are certain provisions of BR Act 1949 which will not get applicable to public sector banks. Those provisions will be applicable from which act? The separate act. So it is being said that RBI has limited powers when it comes to regulating public sector bank. RBI powers are very limited. What things RBI cannot do with respect to public sector bank? क्या नहीं कर सकता है RBI? What do you think? What powers of RBI? No. One, RBI's license is not needed for public sector bank. Why? Because the public sector banks are created under an act of the parliament itself. So obviously it will be wrong for them to ask कि you go and ask for RBI's license once again, because who is the most sovereign in India? Supreme. Parliament is supreme. So they don't require a license from RBI. That's the first thing. Second, every bank in India is managed by a board of directors headed by a CEO, chairperson. Every bank, be it a private bank or a public sector bank. In order to ensure that the banks are properly managed, efficiently managed, RBI will lay down the qualifications as to who can be a director or who can be the chairperson of a particular bank. In case of public sector bank, RBI does not have this power. Who will lay down the qualifications? Government will lay down the qualifications. Like who has to become the SBI chairperson? Qualifications to become SBI chairperson is not something which RBI will lay down. It is something which is laid down by the government. So, qualifications of the board of directors. Third, in case of private banks, if some private banks commit some blunder, some mistakes, can I say the blunder or mistake is committed because of poor management of the bank only? जैसे कि there was some crisis in Yes Bank some years back. I hope you must have heard of. Or there was some crisis in ICICI Bank. There was an ICICI chairperson. I'm not sure how many of you heard of it. Her name was Mr. Chanda Kochar. She was involved. She was embroiled in some kind of controversy. Same was with Yes Bank. So if RBI believes that in some bank there has been instances of mismanagement, like the management was corrupt or the management was inefficient, if it is a private bank, RBI can remove the board of directors. RBI can remove the chairperson. In case of what? Private bank. In case of public sector bank, RBI cannot remove the board of directors. Who has the power to remove the board of directors? Government once again. समझ में आया? Fourth, there was recently 2 years back, there was a case. There was a bank called as Lakshmi Vilas Bank. I told you about bank run, na? This bank run actually happened in this Lakshmi Vilas Bank. This Lakshmi Vilas Bank was on the verge of collapse. RBI merged this Lakshmi Vilas Bank with another bank called as Deutsche Bank. Deutsche Bank is a foreign bank. You must have heard of this, DB. So if there is a private bank which it is failing, RBI can force the merger of one private bank with another bank. So imagine if there's one weak bank which is on the verge of collapse. If that weak bank is being taken over by another strong bank, will be able to prevent the collapse of a bank. RBI can do that in case of private bank, but RBI cannot merge public sector bank. Like I gave an example of Vijaya Bank, Dina Bank being merged into Bank of Baroda. Who took this decision? Government took this decision. Did you all get the point? Why all of these things become important is, have you ever heard of this word anytime in your life? NPA. Aditya, not heard of this? NPA is, just know NPA means bad loan. You'll find bad loan in public sector bank also, and you'll find this bad loan in the private bank also. Where do you think majority of the bad loans are concentrated? कहाँ पे? Majority of the bad loans are concentrated in the public sector banks. Let's say I am the RBI. My role is to regulate the banks. My role is to ensure that their bad loans is lower. This is my role. But do I have adequate authority to do that? Like, do I have this authority? Like, most of the time, whenever you hear about fraud, banking fraud, most of the time banking fraud कहाँ होते हैं? Public sector banks. Like, you know about the Nirav Modi case, right? Have you heard of this case at least? Nirav Modi का? नहीं सुना है? चलो, we'll discuss that later. Nirav Modi's case was there. This Nirav Modi's case actually took place in PNB, Punjab National Bank, which also happens to be a public sector bank. So think of it. I, as a RBI, know that it is the problem with the management of PNB. But can I remove the management of PNB? I cannot. Because ultimately, who can remove the management? Government itself. So the problem here is RBI has responsibility to regulate the banks, but RBI does not has what? Enough amount of authority. ठीक है? समझ में आया सबको? So please write down. Vijay Mallya, he took loans from multiple banks. Majority of the loans are public sector banks once again. One of the bank was SBI. Okay. But उसमें banking fraud, bank का कोई mistake नहीं था. It was mostly a problem from the Mallya side. In case of Nirav Modi, what happened was Nirav Modi and the bank, they joined hands. So bank के officials involved थे उसके अंदर. So please write. Next para. The public sector banks are under the dual regulation. The public sector banks are under the dual regulation of the public sector banks are under the dual regulation of RBI and the government. Full stop. The RBI regulates the public sector banks. The RBI regulates the public sector banks under Banking Regulation Act 1949, under Banking Regulation Act 1949, and the government regulates these banks, and the government regulate these banks under their separate acts. Under their separate acts. Full stop. Certain provisions of BR Act 1949, certain provisions of BR Act 1949 are not applicable to public sector banks. are not applicable to public sector banks. Full stop. Hence, RBI has limited powers. Hence, RBI has limited powers in regulating. RBI has limited powers in regulating public sector banks. Full stop. You can write that in short as PSBs, public sector banks. Full stop. The following powers are not applicable to RBI. The following powers are not applicable to RBI in case of PSBs. Number one, PSBs do not require license from RBI. PSBs do not require license from RBI. Second, RBI cannot lay down qualifications. RBI cannot lay down the qualifications of board of directors. RBI cannot lay down the qualifications of board of directors. Next, RBI cannot remove / supersede / supersede board of directors. Next, RBI cannot force the merger of PSBs. RBI cannot force the merger of PSBs. ठीक है? Write a note after this. Note. In case of private sector banks, comma, RBI is a sole regulator. In case of private sector banks, RBI is the sole, not SOUL, SOLE. RBI is a sole regulator under BR Act 1949. RBI is a sole regulator under BR Act 1949. Full stop. All the provisions of BR Act 1949, are applicable to private banks. All the provisions of BR Act 1949 are applicable to private banks. ठीक है? I hope you understood. So we are done with the role of RBI as a regulator, how it regulates the public sector bank and how it regulates the private banks. That is what we have covered. Next, we will get into NBFC, role of RBI as a regulator of NBFC. Please write. So the broad heading was role of RBI as a regulator. Under that, the first one we covered, banks. Second, role of RBI as regulator of NBFCs, non-banking financial companies. Okay. Just pay attention. You have banks which accept deposits, and they give out loans. Similar to banks, we have a category of institutions which is called as NBFC, non-banking financial company. The details or the difference between bank and NBFC will be covering that in detail in the chapter of banking, because if I get into this topic it is at least 1 hour. Okay, but what do you think is the major difference between bank and NBFC? क्या difference है दोनों के बीच में? Like you must have heard of some companies, na? Like have you heard of this Muthoot Finance? नहीं सुना है? Muthoot सुना होगा. Or you must have heard about this Manappuram gold loan, or let's say Bajaj Finance you must have heard of, right? Then any other company? जो मैं बोल रहा हूँ उसमें हाँ में हाँ मिला रहे हो. But you know any other example? Nothing else apart from this? Okay. In what way do you think, let's say, Muthoot or Bajaj Finance is different from a bank? How are they different? Huh. They don't have a banking license. Good. And they don't accept deposit. Some of the NBFCs accept deposit. Not all. Some accept deposit. But the main difference here is when it comes to a bank, in a bank you can have two types of deposit. You could have a savings deposit or you can have a fixed deposit. In a NBFC, you cannot have a savings deposit. What you can only have? You can have only a fixed deposit. समझ में आया? Okay. And just like a bank, even these NBFC can also give out loans. There are other much differences, but I'm not deliberately going into that. We will keep it for a separate chapter because my idea is not to make you understand NBFC. My idea is to make you understand that even the NBFCs are also regulated by RBI. Just know that much. समझ आया? Okay. So please write down. NBFCs are called as with right within the inverted commas, shadow banks. Shadow. NBFCs are called as shadow banks, inverted commas close, since they perform a role similar to a bank without having a banking license. In the bracket, details to be discussed in banking chapter. So when I'm discussing the banking chapter, I'll ask you to come back to this. Okay. Next line. All the NBFCs compulsorily need license. All the NBFCs compulsorily need license from RBI. All the NBFCs compulsorily need license from RBI. Under? Yes, which act? That is only for banking, na? Huh? under RBI Act 1934. So RBI will regulate the banks under BR Act 1949 and it regulates NBFCs under RBI Act 1934. Clear? Chalo. So one, we have covered banks. Second, we covered about the NBFCs. Write down the third one, credit information companies. Third category, a regulator of credit information companies. A regulator of credit information companies. Okay, I'll dictate this point, just pay attention. Let's say there is a borrower, a person. This person, let's say, goes to a particular bank A. From this particular bank, the person takes a credit card. He takes a credit card. He swipes the credit card. And you know that when you purchase a credit card, there's a inbuilt credit limit. So let's say he uses the entire credit limit. And when the time comes to repay the credit card bill, he throws away the credit card itself. He throws away the credit card. He does not repay the credit card bill. Next, what he will do? He will go and, for example, apply for credit from bank B. The problem which might happen here is bank B may not know that this person owes some money to bank A. Because the bank B might not know, bank B may sanction loan or a credit card to this borrower. Once again, he will take the loan and he will not repay the loan. Then he will go to another company, another bank C. Because bank C will not know that bank A and bank B had lent this person money and this person has not repaid, they will once again give him loans. So that way, if someone wants to take loan, we have 12 public sector banks. We have more than 25 private banks. We have 40 foreign banks. तो आराम से जिंदगी चल जाएगा इसी में. Go take loan from one bank, do not repay the loan, go and take loan from the next bank. That is how it can work, right? So don't you think there has to be a free flow of information among the banks? Free flow of information as to how much loans have people taken from the bank, कितना पैसा लोन लिया है, whether the loan has been repaid on time or not, which we call as, look at the word, क्या बोलते हैं इसे? Credit history. Someone has to capture this credit history. For capturing this credit history, we have a specialized institutions in India which we call them as credit information companies. Samaya, have you ever heard of any company in India which is collecting this information about you? Huh? Which one? Rupee card is not. Yes, there is one company which you must have heard of. Have you heard of something called as CIBIL score? Suna hai aapne? Like anytime if you are searching on the internet, you'll get this message. Please check your CIBIL score to check for the availability of loan. Whether you want loan or not, least bother, they'll say, please check your CIBIL score. Hai na? What is that CIBIL score? If you look at the word CIBIL, Credit Information Bureau India Limited. It's a entity which is keeping a record of your credit information. Huh? ICRA is different. I'll come to that. That is where people confuse also. I'll come to that. Don't worry. But how will CIBIL get to know this information? CIBIL को कैसे पता चलता है about when someone gets a license of a credit information company, na, RBI has asked all the banks in India compulsorily share information about your borrowers to credit information companies. The day you take loan from any bank, not just bank, even NBFC, if you take loan, na, immediately they'll share this information to CIBIL. And the day you default on your loan, what will happen to your CIBIL score? Your CIBIL score will fall and you'll not be able to take new loans. So here, it's like this borrower takes loan from bank A, takes a credit card, he does not repay the credit card. Immediately, what will the bank do? Bank A will share this information with CIBIL. Next time when the person is seeking loan from bank B, bank will check this credit history. They'll get to know his score is less, they'll not sanction him loan only. So that is what is Credit Information Bureau. समझ में आया? You must have heard of only one name, that is CIBIL. There are right now 4 credit information companies in India. 4 है. But it is the most biggest credit information company, which is CIBIL. So who once again is regulating the credit information companies? RBI. समझ में आया? Okay. So just check here. Please see here, everyone. Credit information companies, what do? They collect credit related information about the loans that you have taken from banks, NBFCs, etc., and provide a credit score. Reporting to credit information companies, all the credit providers means banks and NBFCs, have been directed by RBI to provide credit information to credit information companies. They are regulated under an act called as Credit Information Companies Regulation Act of 2005. Can you see how many credit information companies we have in India? Like we have CIBIL. CIBIL is actually owned by American multinational company. Then we have Equifax, then we have Experian, and then we have CRIF high mark. इसमें से कोई भी public sector है क्या? None of them are owned by the government. All are private. In fact, not just private, all of them are owned by foreign entities. समझ में आया सबको? Please write down quickly. Credit information companies. Mandate. Credit information companies collect. Credit information companies collect credit history. Collect credit history from banks and NBFCs. Collect credit history from banks and NBFCs and provide credit score. Next, reporting. Next is reporting. All the credit information companies sorry, all the bank, I'm just changing that, credit information, CIC is going to remove that. All the banks and NBFCs all the banks and NBFCs are mandated. All the banks and NBFCs are mandated to share credit information, are mandated to share credit information with CICs, with CICs, that is credit information companies. Next, regulation, put hyphen and write Credit Information Companies Regulation Act 2005. Credit Information Companies Regulation Act 2005. Okay. Examples. Right. Credit Information Bureau India Limited. Credit Information Bureau India Limited, CIBIL. Next, Equifax, 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 Equifax. Third, Experian, EXPERIAN, Experian. Fourth, CRIF High Mark, CRIF High Mark. And please write that none of them are public sector owned, all are foreign owned entities. None of the CICs are owned by the government. None of the CICs are owned by the government. All of them are owned by foreign companies. ठीक है? Okay. Almost similar to this. We'll be covering this part later also, but almost similar to this. We do have a similar agencies in India, which we call them as credit rating agencies. You got confused with this, credit rating agencies. Credit information companies are different, credit rating agencies are different. What is a credit rating agency? Let's understand this. Let's say there is a particular company or there is a government, and let's say this company or the government issues bonds, and I want to decide whether I should purchase this bond or not. Tell me what factors should I look into whether I should purchase this bond or not. क्या क्या देखना पड़ेगा मुझे? Number one, I need to see how much is the profit of the company in the last 2 to 3 years, because only if the company is making profit, it will give me back my money. Then what else? हाँ, rate of interest तो mentioned है, और क्या हो सकता है? हाँ? How trustworthy the company is, or probably I would also want to know how much money the company has borrowed in the past. How much money the company has borrowed in the past? Whether the company has repaid all of its bond holders or not. How much profit it is making, and whether the profit that it will make in future would be sufficient enough to pay back this particular money. All of these things I would have to know. But there's a problem. I have not done, let's say, MBA in finance. I'm not an MBA in finance, so it's very difficult for me to look into the balance sheet of the company and decide on that. So I need someone to advise me whether should I purchase this bond or not. Advisor. Who will advise me in that particular case? Credit rating agency. So what will this credit rating agency do now? It will look into how much profit the company has made, how much money the company has borrowed, what is its credit history, what is its future growth prospects. On all of these things, the credit rating agency will give the credit rating to the bond. किसको रेट किया जाता है? बॉन्ड को. And you know how is this rating given? In your school days, you used to have this grading like A plus, B plus, C plus. We have almost a similar grading here. For example, the grading here could be something like triple A, triple plus. After that, it could be triple A, double plus, or triple A, single plus, triple A minus. So this is how the rating will be given. If you go from this level to down, क्या होगा? Rating कैसे होगा? Rating will reduce. So if I compare two bond, एक बॉन्ड का रेटिंग है ट्रिपल ए प्लस, दूसरे बॉन्ड का रेटिंग है फॉर एग्जाम्पल ट्रिपल बी माइनस. Which bond should I purchase? Triple A plus. It has a higher rating. I hope you understood. So you said about the agency, right? You call it as ICRA, Indian Credit Rating Agency. ICRA. ICRA is a credit rating agency. It's not a credit information company. Credit rating agency is more to do with the bond. It is not to do with the loans. Globally, there are three big credit rating agencies. Any idea which are those three big credit rating agencies at the global level? There is one agency. Have you heard of this? Moody's. Then there is another agency called as Fitch, Fitch. And there is another agency called as S&P, Standard and Poor. These are considered to be the big three of credit rating agencies. Just like how they give rating to a company, they are also giving rating to the government. Please check what is the credit rating of Indian bond. एक बार check करना. You can check the rating of, you can check Moody's rating. Moody's rating. Past? नहीं, that is different. ये नया है, हमेशा से rating देते हैं. It should be triple B minus. Okay, it is BA. Then you can check Fitch. Fitch का rating. Fitch ratings. Triple B minus, na? I told you. It is triple B minus. Can you just check US? US से कितना है? AA plus, double A plus. For India it is triple B minus. अगर श्रीलंका होता तो it will be much lower than India. It will be something like C, right? I hope you understood what is credit rating. Okay. Why it is important? Yeah, please have a look at this question. Prelims 2022. In India, credit rating agencies are regulated by RBI. Who do you think regulates credit rating agencies? मेरा ही आंसर देख रहे हो. SEBI, capital market regulator, right? So can you see, credit information companies is RBI, credit rating agencies is SEBI. Okay, but I'm not getting into the topic of credit rating agencies. It's a separate topic. Okay, but just know that there is a fundamental difference between information and rating agencies. Okay, okay. Let's move to the next one. Regulation of authorized dealers. The regulation of authorized dealers. Okay, please write. Authorized dealers are the entities. Authorized dealers are the entities. Authorized dealers are the entities which have been licensed by the RBI. Are the entities which have been licensed by the RBI to deal in foreign exchange. To deal in foreign exchange. So in Karol Bagh, na, you must have come across a lot of places where you can actually convert rupees into dollars. So there are small shops. इसमें लिखा है money exchange centers, ना. What are they actually? They are authorized dealers. And who gives them license? RBI. No one can be involved in exchange of foreign currencies without taking the license or approval of RBI. So all such entities, we call them as authorized dealers. When you look at banks, na, when banks get a license of a bank, they also get license of an authorized dealer also. That is why banks are also authorized dealers. Like if you have rupees, you can easily get the rupees converted into dollar from the nearest bank as well, because bank also have a license of authorized dealer. ठीक है? Next. That's it. Next, last one. Regulation of primary dealers. Regulation of primary dealers. I have already told you who are the primary dealers. So please write. Primary dealers are the entities. Primary dealers are the entities who have been licensed by the RBI. Who have been licensed by the RBI to invest in government securities, who have been licensed by the RBI to invest in government securities in the primary market. In the primary market. Okay. The primary dealers are categorized into I told you two types: bank primary dealers and non-bank primary dealers. Are categorized into bank primary dealers and non-bank primary dealers. Third point, all the primary dealers have access to e-Kuber platform. All the primary dealers have access to e-Kuber platform. ठीक है? Okay. So we are done with the role of RBI as a regulator. Now the last part, development role of RBI. Let's complete RBI roles today. Last one, development role of RBI. So RBI, apart from the roles that we've seen, RBI is also involved in some kind of development role. So the first development role of the RBI is what is called as priority sector lending. See, generally, in India, there are certain sections or there are certain sectors. If they go and take loans from the banks, banks might not be very interested to give loans to these sectors or to these people. For example, let's say a farmer wants to take loan. Considering the fact that majority of the agriculture land in India is under rainfall, like it does not has irrigation, banks consider it to be very risky to lend money to the farmers. Same, have you heard of MSMEs, micro, small and medium enterprises, right? So banks are generally reluctant to give loans to agriculture, MSMEs because of the higher risk. So what RBI has done, RBI has declared some sectors as what? Priority sectors. As a name suggests, these sectors should get priority in terms of loans from the banks. And how will they get priority in terms of loan? For all the banks, RBI has set a target. A target that some percentage of loans which they give, compulsorily they have to give these loans to these priority sectors. For example, for mostly all the banks in India, the target happens to be 40% for mostly all the banks. But there are some other banks, for them the target might be different. For example, we have a category of banks which we call them as regional rural banks. Have you heard of Grameen banks? What is that? So any bank in whose name will come across the word Grameen, they are called as regional rural banks. Similarly, in yesterday's class, current affairs, we discussed about small finance bank. Like AU, small finance bank, has now become a universal bank. For RRBs and small finance bank, the target is much higher at how much? 75. So if RRB of small finance bank is giving loan worth 100 rupees, 75 rupees they have to compulsory give to the priority sectors. What constitutes priority sector? Thrice question has been asked in the previous year prelims. List of priority sector. What do you think? क्या क्या है? Apart from my examples which I have already given. Agriculture and MSME. उसके अलावा startups. Good question. Then any other sector which you think is priority sector? Education. Good Bharat. Education is a priority sector. No, textile is not. Healthcare. Good. Then और क्या हो सकता है और होना चाहिए इंडिया में? तो आपने ऑलरेडी बोला ना, हाउस. आपने एजुकेशन बोला, राइट? हाँ, कंस्ट्रक्शन ऑफ हाउस, यू कैन से दैट. गुड. Giving loans to poor and vulnerable sections like SCs, STs, OBC, women. Good. Okay, please write. I'll dictate all of this. Priority sector lending. Under development role, first one, priority sector lending. RBI has categorized the following sectors. The RBI has categorized the following sectors as priority sectors. The RBI has categorized the following sectors as priority sectors. Write the list. Agriculture. Second, MSMEs. Third, education. Next, housing. Next, renewable energy. Next, social infrastructure. What is social infrastructure? In the bracket, write schools, hospitals, irrigation, sanitation, etc. Bracket close. Next, startups. Next is startups. Next, loans to poor and vulnerable sections. Okay, just concentrate here. Agriculture, micro, small and medium enterprise, education, housing, renewable energy, social infrastructure, startups, and loans to poor and vulnerable sections. Except this, no other sector is priority sector. Okay, all of this includes the priority sector. Okay, so next line you can write PSL target. PSL target. PSL target for most of the banks. PSL target for most of the banks is 40%. PSL target for most of the banks is 40%. Full stop. In case of RRBs, in case of RRBs and small finance banks, comma, it is 75%. Okay. Next line पे लिखना details about priority sector, including the sub targets. Details about the priority sector, including the sub targets, to be discussed in the banking chapter. ये बस introduction है आपका priority sector का, ठीक है? It's not that easy also. So it's actually half an hour discussion on what exactly is the target, because for different banks the target is different, and even that target also there is a sub target. All of that will be covering it separately, but yahan tak pata chala. Okay, next, right, we are done with priority sector target. Next, under development role only, lead bank scheme. Lead, LEAD. First one was priority sector, second one is lead bank under the development role. Lead bank scheme. Can you see this question? Prelims 2012. Let's see what is this lead bank scheme. I'll keep it very short here. Let's say this is entire India. These are the different districts in India. So what RBI will do, for each and every district in India, RBI will appoint one particular bank as a lead bank for every district. That lead bank could either be public sector bank or it could be a private bank. It could be either. As a name suggests, lead. This bank should take a lead in terms of opening bank accounts for the people in that particular district. It should take a lead in terms of giving loans to the poor and vulnerable sections. That is what is lead bank. Look at the question. Answer क्या होगा इसका? Individual banks should adopt particular district for intensive development. That's it. ठीक है. Now, if you see lead bank, na, lead bank focuses on one single district. It might so happen that the district is divided into different blocks. And कभी कभी देखा होगा ना, कुछ डिस्ट्रिक्ट में ऐसे होते हैं कि देयर आर सम ब्लॉक्स विच आर वेरी वेरी वेल डेवलप्ड, whereas some blocks they are completely underdeveloped. The problem in lead bank scheme is we are focusing on a district as a whole, and we might not give due focus on underdeveloped blocks. That is when we came up with a new scheme called as service area approach. तो सर्विस एरिया अप्रोच एंड लीड बैंक में क्या डिफरेंस है? सर्विस एरिया में विल फोकस ऑन द एंटायर, सॉरी, इन द लीड बैंक विल फोकस ऑन द एंटायर डिस्ट्रिक्ट. सर्विस एरिया में अ पर्टिकुलर ब्लॉक, अंडर डेवलप्ड ब्लॉक, अदरवाइज एवरीथिंग इज सेम. सो प्लीज राइट लीड बैंक स्कीम इन द ब्रैकेट, राइट? ओके. कंसिडरिंग कि दिस स्कीम वाज आस्क्ड इन 2012, क्या लगता है व्हेन वाज दिस स्कीम लॉन्च्ड? This scheme was launched in 1969. And why UPSC asked this question, I don't know, have an answer to that. 1969 का scheme UPSC ने पूछा 2012 में. There's no logic. So right, lead bank in the bracket 1969. First bullet point, launched on the recommendations of Nariman Committee. First one, launched on the recommendations of Nariman Committee, Nariman, launched on the recommendations of Nariman Committee. Second, RBI appoints a particular bank. RBI appoints a particular bank as a lead bank for every district in India. For every district in India. Next line. The lead bank should coordinate the efforts of the bank, all other banks. The lead bank should coordinate the efforts of all other banks to promote development in that district. Should coordinate the efforts of all other banks to promote development in the district. That is lead bank. Last one is service area approach. Service area approach, right? 1989. 1989 service area approach. Write the first one. Component of lead bank scheme. First component of lead bank scheme. Second, focus on underdeveloped blocks. Focus on underdeveloped blocks within a district. Focus on underdeveloped blocks within a district. ठीक है? Fine. So we'll stop here. So we are done with the role of RBI. सारा जो static part है, we are completely done with the static part. The only thing which remains is the current affairs related to RBI, including the economic capital framework. So I think my next class with you is on next week, right? So I'll meet you next week. Till then, please complete NCERT textbook. सबसे पहले तो open करना NCERT textbook, खत्म कर लेना NCERT class 10th, and also revise what all things we have covered. So now you're getting ample amount of time to revise, right? So you have weekend also coming. Start revising. If you have any doubt, feel free to reach out to me. ठीक है? Thank you so much.